Excited for today. So, this is an extra special Ignite Your Influence on Social session. As you know, usually I go live on Thursdays at 12 p.m. Eastern Time, but this week we're doing an additional session because I had to bring on my special guest, colleague, client, and friend, Martha A. Wilson, who's also a transformation coach. And she's actually really, really special. So before I bring you on, Martha, thank you for being here.
Mhm.
I want to share, like, you deserve for me to share your long version bio because, guys, wait to see or to hear how interesting Martha is. Okay. So here we go. After 27 years undercover with the CIA, like, let's talk about a badass woman here. Martha Wilson is an expert at what makes people tick. Her life and the lives of her assets depended on her ability to articulate to accurately predict how someone would react in a particular situation and draw out of them the specific internal qualities they would need to successfully execute the mission. She now uses those same skills to help entrepreneurs and leaders just like us to navigate the pressures of increasing their impact without losing their freedom. Unlike most success coaches, Martha does not teach her clients to break the internal patterns of thought and feeling that lead to frustrating patterns in business and life. Because you know what? That approach is really hard and ultimately does not work that well. Rather, she shows them how to reverse engineer that hidden programming and use it to their advantage so that they can make the bigger difference they're here to make and enjoy the ride along the way. Martha has a master's degree in international relations, has served in permanent assignments in 6 countries with temporary assignments in 26 others, and formerly served as the only Arabic speaker on a covert team in the Western Desert of Iraq. Like, holy cow. She's now living her dream on the water of one of my favorite places, the Florida Keys, with her husband and one slightly spoiled cat. Martha coaches Martha's coaching business consists of high level group coaching, limited one on one work, and her signature 3-day workshop, Unflappable, the Inner Game Experience. Welcome, Martha. Thank you so much for taking time to being on. Was that just amazing? Oh my gosh, I can't believe all of those accolades. Like, hello.
Thank you, Gina. And it's so funny because I'm listening to you read my bio and I'm like, yeah, I really did do all that.
You really did. And like, what his was intrigued me with you from the very beginning when we first met virtually is the CIA part because I think I mentioned this to you before, but I have a criminology degree,
Mhm.
and and like anything that has to do with CIA, with operations, with crime stories, like undercover, that is my thing. It's like another life that I haven't lived yet, but I live vicariously watching lots of television that has to do with that. So I just think it's so impressive, and the fact that you are now a transformation coach. So before we jump into what this conversation today is about, because that's really important too, we are going to be talking about 3 strategies for us to use in business now to thrive that most experts use, but they just don't talk about it.
Mhm.
But before we dive into that, I want to know, how do you go from being an undercover CIA agent to becoming a success coach? You got to tell us that.
Yeah, it's a fascinating story, and I will be perfectly honest with you, it wasn't deliberate. That's not what I intended, because it all started on this infamous day when I'm
Mhm.
sitting in my office in Southeast Asia with my head in my hands because I had just gotten off another miserable phone call with my boss where she's proceeded to rip me a new one yet again about everything my team that is and is not doing that's not getting her the results that she wants.
Yeah.
And, I'm sitting there with my head in my hands and I'm like, I don't get it. I've got what I think is the coolest job in the world,
Mhm.
working with amazing people, working inside an organization that I do, in fact, truly believe in.
Mhm.
And yet I feel like I'm failing, and I don't know why. Because I was doing the same things that I had always done, but I was not getting the same results. And I was stretched thin, I was burned out, I was frustrated, and I was heartbroken
Mm.
because, I had first thought that in order for me to be successful at CIA, one of two things had to change. Either I had to change to fit CIA, or
Mm.
CIA had to change to fit me. And here's the part that made it feel so bad. I had tried both of those already, and it still wasn't working, and I was still miserable. And I'm like, Houston, we have a problem here.
Yeah.
Because as I'm sitting there with my head in my hands, actually, just a little tidbit for you guys who may not come from the world of espionage. You know, the thing is, espionage, in spite of what you see in Hollywood, is not all about guns and badassery. It's
Mhm.
100% based on human behavior and what makes somebody tick.
Right.
So, my job as a case officer with the CIA was to go out and meet these people and uncover. This is going to sound horrible, guys, but I want you to hang with me for a second. Uncover what we used to call their vulnerabilities, which
Mm.
means what is the source, the greatest source of their, or the source of their greatest pain or dissatisfaction. Now, notice I said the source of the pain, fear, or dissatisfaction, not the pain, fear, or dissatisfaction itself, but the source of it.
Right.
Because the thing is, if I could uncover the source of that, I could A, use it to help that person do what I needed them to do, or more importantly, and this was my ultimate objective, I could address that source
Mm.
so that it no longer had any impact on them. It no longer had any control over them. That was the thing that gave them the strength to execute the mission. So, isn't
Mm.
it funny that as I'm sitting there in my office with my head in my hands, I'm like, oh, dear Lord, I'm the one who's vulnerable right now.
Right.
Hence the reason I had a problem. And that was the moment that I realized it was really time for me to. It was like the words of an old Army captain, because I spent 5 years on active duty with the Army as well before I came to CIA. But the words of an old Army captain ringing through my head is like, Lieutenant, when in charge, take charge. And, that was the moment I realized that it was time for me to take charge, not of my team or my targets or all of those things outside of me. It was
Mhm.
time for me to take charge of me because, as much as I hated to admit it, the one common denominator around everything that was and was not working in my
Right.
professional career and my life overall was right here.
Yeah.
It was me. So when I first started, when I got my very first coaching certification, it wasn't because I gave a rat's behind about becoming a coach. If I'm being really honest, I did it
Mhm.
to save myself. But it was everything that I uncovered downstream of that that made me realize I got to share this with the world. Because what I will tell you is, as I went down that path and I
Mhm.
uncovered what was really driving me, what it allowed me to do was not only did I not punch out of my career with CIA, I actually stayed with them for another 8 years, best 8 years of my
Oh,
life,
wow. Okay.
most fun I ever had, highest cash award of my career. From that, stepped into a corporate gig that just landed in my lap. I would that, oh, by the way, doubled my government salary.
Wow.
landed in my lap. I wasn't looking for that. And
Mhm.
with that corporate gig, I also discovered, this is not exactly what I'm intending to do with the rest of my life. So I graduated myself from the corporate gig and have now replaced that corporate salary with my multiple business lines, doing what I love, living here in the Keys.
Yeah.
Even most recently qualified for the biggest mortgage of my life as a self-employed person. So if you've ever tried to get a mortgage as a self-employed person, you know that that is a BFHD, big
It's
fat hairy
yeah.
deal.
I was gonna say it's hard. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, and, I'm sharing all that not to brag. I mean, okay, I'm bragging a little bit because I am actually pretty proud of what I've accomplished, but
Yeah.
I'm sharing that just to share that this is what happens
Mhm.
when you understand what's going on, what's running in the background for you, and then you can actually use that programming
Mhm.
to work to your advantage. That's when everything gets so much easier. And
Yeah.
I'm all about easy.
100%. And it's so true. Even in my own business has how my business has expanded over the years, and what makes me so excited and passionate about the work that I do is when I am doing the things that I used to be afraid to doing on my own. And I learned how to do those things, and now that's what sparks my passion to help other people do it too, which is to show up on social media vulnerable and as a brand. So yeah, I can completely relate to that. So have you always been a goal getter type of person who loves, like setting goals and then you check them off one at a time? It's like shooting cans, or tell us.
Yeah, no.
No.
I tell you, because the truth is, I hated goals. I
Mm,
absolutely hated goals because I could never win. So, I mean, it felt like a true no-win situation for me. Either I'd hit this really big goal or I'd go for this really big goal. I'd put it up there on the wall. And then every single time I look at it, I'm like, the days are flying by. I'm not there yet. I'm so far
yeah.
behind. How the heck am I ever going to get there? Wow, that's
Hmm.
going to be really hard. I don't know the right people, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
So I thought, and I would love to know for anybody who's listening, how many of you have done this? And then you say, well, let me just hit a smaller goal, one that I
Hmm.
know I can hit. So then I'd try to go for the little goal, but that didn't work either because either I would hit the goal and it wasn't really what I wanted. So I was like, well, it doesn't matter anyway because it's just a puny little goal.
Right.
Or because it was a puny little goal that I didn't really want, it didn't seem worth it.
Hmm.
And so I wouldn't take any action at all. And then, of course, what I'm hearing in my head is, oh, well, you can't even hit the little goal. On what planet do you think you're going to get a big one?
Right.
So then, okay, so what option am I left with now? Well, let me just not have any goals at all, right?
Hmm.
Well, that didn't work either because then I'm stuck in this cycle of working all the time, striving, head down, suck it up, muscle through, keep going. But then whatever results I did or didn't get because I didn't have a goal, they seemed like a happy accident. And certainly not something that I could repeat or, heaven forbid, actually count on.
Hmm.
And when you bring that back, it's easy to have that kind of conversation if you're talking about something that's like out there, that's a nice to have fun goal. But when that goal that you put out there has to do with your career, with your business, with, let's call it what it is, the money that keeps the
Right.
roof over your head and the three squares on the table, then all of a sudden it gets a little messy. It gets a little wonky and it turns into this incredible high stress situation.
Yeah.
And I don't know about you, but that is not fun for me.
Right. And then you do things that like self-sabotage you
Yes.
from moving forward. So, yeah.
Mhm.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, for me, it really was about, all right, let's again go back to what's going on behind that goal. Because
Mhm.
I'm a pretty smart cookie. I have done big things in my life. So clearly I'm capable, but what's going on in the background that we need to pull the string on
Mhm.
to actually get me to the place where the goal can serve its true purpose, which is supposed to be getting you motivated, inspired, and stretching you to grow.
Right. Right. So, with setting the goals aside,
Mhm.
what are tell me about a few hidden, let's say, secrets
Mhm.
that you are using in your own business that industry leaders are using but that people don't really talk about to help us
Yeah.
thrive in our business.
Yeah. Yeah. So I actually want to tell you about the first one, going
Mhm.
back to these goals. So think for a second. I'm going to tell you a little story here. Think for a second. How does a baby learn to roll over? The baby does not get up in the morning and say, "Ha ha, I am going to roll over today." No, no. How does the baby learn to roll over? The baby looks up, he sees something shiny, and it's interesting. It looks
Mhm.
fun. So the baby starts to reach for it just for the sheer curiosity, the exploration. And he reaches, and he reaches again, and he reaches again. And one day he reaches so far, he actually rolls over. And in that moment, nobody's more surprised than the baby.
Mhm. Yeah.
Might maybe
Yeah.
even cries. But at the same time, he's like, oh, mom comes up, wraps some arms around the baby. It's like, this was kind of okay. And at that point, the baby starts to reach again. And that's the same motivation that takes that baby from rolling over to sitting up to
Mm.
standing to walking to running. Yet we as adults have forgotten that.
Mhm.
We set a goal. I am going to get up this morning and this month I am going to do this. And then we stand over ourselves with a stick till we get there. And we wonder why we drag our feet. So the lesson number one, and this is what I've discovered. I mean, I just recently did a series of interviews with what, 18 truly,
18.
truly,
Yes.
truly amazing business owners. And this was one of the key aspects that came out of every single one, that it's not the goal that's supposed to provide the thrill. It's the reach.
Mhm.
It's the action that you take. Let the action you take be fun in and of itself. Create the
Yeah.
fun in it. Allow that to be fulfilling. Allow it to be, you may or may not do it right. It might be messy, but hey, let's let it be fun
Mhm.
because that's where the excitement comes in. That's where the fun comes in. That's where the thrill comes in, just for the sheer joy of the reach.
Right. Without perfection. No
Mhm.
perfection.
Mm-mm. Mm-mm.
Mhm.
Mm-mm. Put it in the category of, well, wonder if I could.
Mm.
What would happen if? One of the things that I'm frequently accused of saying, and I hear myself saying, is like, well, I'm going to go do this thing. And then based on what happens, I'm going to do something else. Often that is the extent of my plan, which is not to say it's completely fly by night. But when you're going for something new, when you're pushing that edge, if you can give yourself that grace, that freedom,
Mhm.
that is what takes the pressure off. That is what allows it to be fun. So
Right.
that would be the first secret. Let the action itself be fun.
Mhm.
The second secret is, yeah, suss out what's going on inside of you. So the two big things that will keep people stuck is I literally don't know how. I've never done this thing before. I literally do not know how. So, for example, I have no earthly idea how to run a Facebook ad.
Mhm.
That's what I rely on you for, Gina. And yes, when you and I work together, we're still at the place Gina says, Martha, click here. Okay. I literally don't know how. And not only do I literally not know how to set it up, click, 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 but I also literally do not know how to think about how to evaluate the results.
Mhm.
How do I know if I'm on track? How do I know if I'm doing a good job or not? Am I going the direction I want to go, or am I going to bleed out as I'm on this ad spend here, you know? And so that is strategy number 2. Every single expert, every single successful business owner, every successful senior corporate leader has a coach.
Mm, yeah.
You have a coach in the thing that you literally do not know how to do. You know, we as entrepreneurs and spies are accustomed we're accustomed to going it alone. I
Mhm,
mean, even as a spy, even if I'm going into a clandestine meeting and maybe this time I need to be supported by somebody from the science and technology department, maybe I need to be supported by someone from the psychology department or the security department or whatever, maybe I need their support. But at the end of the day, when I'm conducting a clandestine meeting, there's only two people there, me and the asset. And it's
mhm.
my job to make sure we both walk away alive and free. Entrepreneurs are very much the same way. You know, yes, you have contractors, you have team. Even if you are a leader in a corporate environment, you have your team, but at the end of the day, it's all about you,
Yeah.
which means it's being the best, highest and best version of you. So
Mhm.
every single one of those successful people has a coach in that area that they know they need support in.
Yeah. I mean, I even have my own coaches and mentors, um, in that help me with my own marketing and visibility, and this is what I do because when you do it for yourself, you're too close to it, so it's hard
Mhm,
to see that outside perspective, and
mhm.
so, absolutely, I believe that having that extra support system is really what takes people to that next level. Yeah, that's a great one.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I like to
Mhm.
say you can be absolutely the best heart surgeon on the planet,
Mhm.
but you cannot do open heart surgery on yourself.
On yourself? No.
You will
Nope.
always be limited by your own humanness.
Yeah.
Everything else is exactly the same. And I would say the third secret that came out, and this one's not a secret, but it is the part that nobody likes to talk about.
Mhm.
And at the same time, we got to talk about it. I call it making peace with the money piece.
Mm.
We have to have a real conversation about the money.
Mm.
Money is the lifeblood of your business. Money is the lifeblood of the business of your life. Because of the role that it plays in our society, it has a direct impact on keeping the roof over your head, the three squares on the table, three meals on the
Mhm.
table, if you guys aren't familiar with that turn of phrase, but keeping yourself fed. It touches directly into that survival wiring inside of every
Mm.
single one of us. And for service minded, success focused leaders and entrepreneurs, because of that intense focus on service,
Mhm.
it's easy to let money kind of fall away. The problem is when you do that, you shift from service to sacrifice.
Mm.
Sacrifice serves no one. because sacrifice, by definition, means giving from a place of limited resources, which means at some point there's nothing left to give.
Right.
So, this last piece is really taking a look at the value that you uniquely provide in the world, setting yourself up to allow those financial resources to come to you so that you can
Mhm.
then create the systems so that that money just keeps on flowing, that it comes in and it goes out in appropriate measure, just like the beating of a heart that keeps the blood in your circulatory system moving. That's what we want for our money too.
I love that. It's all of these 3 secrets, and the thing is that they're really common sense, but it's when we hear them from, the other side, from someone else, it makes such a difference. And what I'm so excited about with what you shared today is that you're actually going to be diving deep into this and lots more coming up. So tell us a little bit about the Fulfillment Summit, which, by the way, I'm so excited because I'm also a speaker
Mhm.
during it. And I'm so, so honored to be a part of this with you. So tell us about that experience. What can people expect?
Oh my goodness. This was going back to making things fun. I have to say, this summit was probably the most fun I have had in my business in a long, long time. To have an opportunity to come together with each of these individual speakers, all of them multi 6 and 7 figure business owners, and we're having
Yeah.
a real, raw conversation around what does it take? What does it take? Because we know that the thing that takes so many amazing humans out of the game is they get caught in this really painful procrastination, chaos, burnout cycle. And it's like they just give up and like, well, let me just put a bullet in my business and go get a job at Starbucks. Or at least it
Right.
feels that way.
Mhm.
And then you start to wonder, well, is it just me? Maybe there's something wrong with me. Maybe I'm not doing it wrong. Maybe I don't have the right strategy. Maybe I don't have the right tactic. Maybe I'm just not cut out for this. So, what I enjoyed so much about this summit is that we got to have a real conversation because, yeah, sometimes it is about the strategy and tactic. Like we were saying, I literally don't know
Mhm.
how. I literally didn't know how to run a Facebook ad. I literally don't know how to, as Lucas Garvin is going to share, evergreen the launch and my hybrid coaching program so it can run while
Mhm.
I'm sleeping. I literally don't know how to DIY my techie stuff because maybe I'm the entrepreneur who's just getting started. And yeah, I'm all about, just hire that stuff out and stay in your zone of
Right.
genius. This is great, but that goes back to point number 3 about let's have a real conversation about money.
Mhm.
So Catherine Calhoun gets to come in and share, let's DIY the techie stuff. I mean, digging deep into these topics with these experts
Mhm.
has been a blast because we're also looking at, how was it for them? Did they ever get caught in procrastination, chaos, or burnout? I'll give you a
Mhm.
hint, they did. So if that's
Oh,
you,
yeah.
there's nothing wrong with you. And we also talk about, their best tips to get out of it. And
Right.
sometimes it is okay. I'm going to suck it up and muscle through for 30 minutes. Not all day every day.
Right.
As I mean, again, it for me, it all comes back to where I started
Mhm.
on the streets recruiting foreign individuals with access to non-public information of use to US policymakers. And the 3 key things that would let me know that this was somebody who's probably a really good candidate is they're not satisfied with their work, They don't have enough money coming in to meet the needs that they have,
Mhm.
or they're feeling trapped and at the end of their rope. Isn't it funny that those same things are the things that will take every single one of us out of the difference that we're here to make?
Yep.
And I'm like,
So true.
not on my watch.
I'm so excited for it. I think it's going to be fabulous, and it's really, give yourself the gift, guys, of signing up. It's free.
Mhm,
There is an upgrade option, but it's free
mhm.
essentially. So definitely take advantage of this. It's over 4 days.
Starts on the
The
11th, which is next Monday.
right. Right. Starts on the 11th, but you can sign up starting now.
Yeah.
Okay. So I dropped the link in the comments, and also there's a little QR code there on the screen for you guys. So, Martha, any like last words that you want to leave us with?
Yeah, the last thing I would leave you with is just this. If you've ever felt like you're trapped in that procrastination, chaos, burnout, that business you dreamed about is way over there, it's too far out of reach, and you feel like you're pushing a rock uphill, it does not have to be that way.
Mhm.
And there's nothing wrong with you. There's simply something that you don't know. The Fulfillment Summit will help you with that. And it's completely
Yeah.
free. Because remember, life is supposed to be fulfilling, not just full.
So beautiful. Thank you so much. Guys, do you have any questions? We can stay on for a couple more minutes. If anybody has any questions for Martha, feel free to drop them. I know there's always like a little 7-second delay.
Mhm.
Um, let's see. Somebody said, "Thank you, Martha Wilson. Absolutely inspiring." Yes, totally. All right, let's see.
Thank you.
Yeah. I don't see any
Mhm.
questions, but if you're watching this on the replay, feel free to drop any questions. We'll make sure to get back to you. And Martha, again, thank you so much for being on. And I can't wait for the summit next week. Again, don't forget to sign up. The link is in the comments, and we hope to see you there.
Bye,
Bye.
everyone.